Because first, here's what Steve Kerr said. The idea of chemistry on this team came up and coming together at the right time. Here's what Kerr said.
It just feels like we're coming together. Feels like there's some chemistry, some energy that's forming. We've been battling all season and without Steph and Wiggs for so much of the season. And guys have done a great job of just keeping our heads above water. I think we can feel the finish line. We know Steph's going to be back before too long. Hopefully Wiggs, hopefully Gary. So we've got reinforcements coming. And in the meantime, these guys are doing a hell of a job. So feels like there's some grit, some toughness, and the guys are really coming together. It's fun to watch.
Okay, so a couple things here. One thing, Kyle noticed this. Do you remember toward the end of the game, game still in the balance, Kuminga got called for a touch foul, and he was really angry, right? He was on the defensive, he's like kind of jumping up and down. Klay gave him a hand. He just put the hand out. That's all he did. He gave him a look and a hand, and Kuminga just snapped right out of it. It was like somebody just gave him a meditation, like, boom. There was just a deep breath.
Right.
I'm cool. We're moving on. And everything kept going the Warriors' way. And another one was after a particularly good play, because there were plenty from Jordan Poole last night. There was a spotlight video from Nahigian that he threw out there of Draymond Green and Jordan Poole coming together, giving each other a look, saying, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Dap up and a full hug. And that seems so simple, but with what this team's been through, those little things, I think, are huge.
Yes, no doubt.
And we haven't seen much of them this year.
Also huge is you praising the boss on a day we have a show meeting, so I want to thank you in advance.
You're welcome.
Because
there's more strategy.
There's some groundwork. You're laying some serious groundwork right now.
Trying not to be here for 2 hours.
And, Draymond and Poole have now played 62 regular season games since Draymond tried to decapitate him with a right hand. So there's a certain amount of professionalism that goes into anything. You and I have never come to blows, but we have had times where we've needed to have conversations after the show to where we get right for the next day. We do that, and we move on. And Draymond and Jordan Poole, they both are highly competitive. They both want to win a championship, and they both know they can't do it without one another. So Draymond Green, I give him credit for this again, showing the leadership, realizing that it probably took him 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, however many games for him to get to a point where he could be the leader and to be Draymond Green again. But when you see Jordan Poole get knocked down, which, by the way, is all the time,
right?
Draymond Green, if he's in the area, is the first guy over there to help him up.
Listen, I think that what we've all played with this year, young versus old, contracts,
fist versus face,
big egos.
Thank you.
I think there's something there. I think it'd be hard to convince me that there's not something there. I couldn't give you all the details, but the idea that there's not something there, I think there's something there. But doesn't it feel like we've sort of reached a point, and I think fourth quarter comebacks are a huge indicator of this. I'm not going to say everything is squashed and gone, but it feels for the first time to me under control. It feels manageable. And maybe it's a window into why the Warriors kept messing up in the fourth quarter so much this year, because that's when things need to be really cohesive. They need to be tight. I understand that even though they beat Minnesota, I know the last minute was as wobbly as it could be. But if you take the fourth quarter as a whole, it was really, really well executed. And you play well in the fourth quarter when you have chemistry and you have cohesion. I don't think it's an accident that now they're starting to suddenly play well in the second half versus what they were doing 4 and 5 weeks ago.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that, too, is Jordan Poole. And as Jordan goes, so goes this team in many ways. When he's playing like he did last night, efficient, and I know he had 4 turnovers, and he was 3 of 10 from three-point range. He was attacking the basket. He played under control. And how many times last night did you watch Jordan Poole either fall over with the basketball or make a crazy, reckless, out-of-control play? I don't recall maybe any more than one instance where Jordan Poole was playing out of control. And when he plays like that, and Draymond Green realizing he needs to score a little bit, and he attacked the basket. And God love Klay Thompson. If I could give my children, all 3 of them, the 2 in college and the 1 in diapers, if I could give them one gift from Klay Thompson, it would be the ability to have that level of self-confidence in the face of constant failure. Because Klay Thompson in the first half, he was bad. He couldn't score. He couldn't shoot. He looked sluggish, and he looked completely off.
Yeah.
But just Klay in particular. And Klay comes out in the third quarter, and it's like he has no memory. He's got no short-term memory. And I wish that I had that same level of sometimes one texter can throw me off my game or one comment on YouTube. Klay Thompson's unflappable.
Well, don't forget, though, I mean, he's admitted, and I love this about him, he's admitted that, for instance, this last offseason, I mean, remember the conversation we had with Matt Barnes where Matt was like, they went to talk to him for the All the Smoke podcast, and it was like after the show, he found himself in Klay's living room being like, dude, you're Klay Thompson. Like giving him a pep talk.
Right.
Like Klay has been through the mental forests or the last couple of years, just like anybody else. So we know he's had his down moments because he's told us. But anybody who reaches the level these guys have reached, yeah, you have to be like that. Confidence has got to be absolutely unflappable.
1 for 10 in the first half for Klay Thompson. He had 4 turnovers and he was a minus 21 for the game. Klay Thompson, he winds up 8 of 21, which means he went 7 of 11 after halftime. He had 6 turnovers, fine. He was a +7. He was plus 28 in the second half. And I know he was not the sole reason that they came back, but his ability to take a half that bad, 1 for 10, minus 21, 4 turns, and just wad it up and throw it in the garbage, that's something that I'm going to ask Jama Malalela about in terms of, does Klay go in there and weep into a towel? Or does does Klay look at the stat sheet?
Yeah, it's different.
How does he do that?
I don't know. Yeah, I would love to know what it was that got everybody going, or if it's something that is less strategic and more organic than we realize. I'm sure there's some of that. I also grabbed this out of last night from a couple different angles. I don't know if it's tomorrow night. I don't know if it's Friday night. I don't know if it's Sunday, which is the game I circled a couple of weeks ago as the game that I was hoping Steph would return for. Steph's about to come back. I could not be more confident in this. You always can see the clues. I go back to the time that I told Steiny and Goo, like, he's ready for the playoffs. And they're like, why? I'm like, because he talked to you yesterday. Steph he gives you clues based on his positivity. When he sends out, at the end of the game last night, a screenshot of Kuminga flying through the air, and he split screens it with Kevin Hart with his kind of palms out, because that looks the same as the defender's palms reaching for Jonathan Kuminga. He's in a playful space. And the Steve Kerr clip that we just played for you, he said reinforcements are coming. So,
and he mentioned Steph right away, and then he said eventually Wiggins and
he said
GP2.
Hope. Yeah, hope for Wiggins, hope for GP2, which I guess is all you can really hope for right now as a fan, is that at least they're expressing hope. I mean, if something was really going to keep Andrew Wiggins out for the year, like if it was that bad, I think that, that the tone would be different. So I think I think we'll see Steph first, but
maybe even Friday against New Orleans.
Maybe.
Right? I mean, and I think you're right about Steph, because you watched him last night, and not only on the Kuminga dunk, but during that comeback. And it's DiVincenzo, and it's Looney's putbacks, and it's Draymond cutting to the rim. Every time they would cut to Steph, the facial expression he was giving off was, God, I wish I was out there. And it's that same level of, like, he's champing at the bit to be back a part of this.
Yeah, so, I mean, that changes everything. It's another reminder, though, also, like, it was fun last night to go from, like, you could see based on what had happened in the Western Conference, it was like, oh, my gosh. If the Warriors win this game, they're going to be out of the play-in bracket. And then they won, and I go, in 3 minutes, they're going to go from the 6 to the 5.
Crazy.
Unless the Clippers win. Now, you go lose tomorrow and Friday, you'll be right back in the 10 seed.
Back to play
or something like that. It's going to change that quick, but the opportunity is there, man. I am interested to see what the Suns look like tonight, but outside of that, look at these other teams. Minnesota, struggling. Utah, lost to the Spurs. I think at home. Was that game in Utah last night? It sure was. How is that possible? Remember the Spurs defense? Just for a second here. Remember the Warriors scored like 146 points against them or something?
In front of 100,000 people.
Utah, last night, against that Spurs team, did not get to 100. How's that even possible?
Against a team that pretty much doesn't want to win.
Oh, they're trying hard for Victor.
Right.
They're trying hard for Victor. And Utah had 30 at the end of one quarter. And after that, 18-point second quarter, 21-point fourth quarter. And this is all at home. I have no idea how that's possible. But Utah is leaking. The Clippers are leaking. Dallas looks awful with Kyrie and Luka. Minnesota is middling. New Orleans is injured. LeBron is hurt. You saw Portland last night. I don't know about them getting to a 3 or a 4 or any of that stuff, but in 48 to 72 hours, my God, this feels better than it did at the beginning of the week.
Without a doubt. And, again, and I'm going to borrow from Anthony Slater and just say Houston, Minnesota, and Portland, because Houston is a bottom feeder. Minnesota is fading, and Portland's not a playoff team right now. And if you look at the road ahead, you've got the Clippers 2 more times. And I know the Clippers right now appear more broken than they did a week ago. You've got Memphis 2 more times on the road at Memphis. You have to take on Philadelphia, and you've got to take on Denver. You've got a schedule ahead that's not necessarily easy. You've got Dallas, and you've got the Lakers again. The Lakers are going to be playing desperate. The schedule, there are some cupcakes, but especially considering what this Warrior team has done on the road, you've got 11 more road games. And the way you've played on the road, 4-7 is what I'm going to give you for your final 11 road games. So can you, in the other 9 games at home, can you go 8-1, which would get you to 12-8, which would get you to 44-38, which would get you a playoff berth?
Oh, gosh, a good one. A good one.
But top 6.
Yeah, I think top 5.
Okay.
Possibly even 4. I know.
But I think that's where the margin is, Mark,
I agree.
in terms of, the road slate.
The way the road games have gone
is
slate.
Thank you.
The way the road games have gone, 4-7 would be amazing. I know that sounds ridiculous.
It does.
But they've won 7 road games all year. They've won 7 road games all year. That's crazy. It's ridiculously bad.
You know who else has won 7 road games this year?
The Detroit Pistons?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
The fighting Wisemans.
Yeah. The worst teams in the league.
Back to Wiseman. There are only 2 teams who have won fewer road games than the Golden State Warriors, and that is San Antonio and Houston.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before. There have been 3, if not 4, NBA champions who had a losing record on the road and still went on to win a championship. So this does not mean that the Warriors can't win a championship. And also the fact that they've won a road game in the playoffs 27 straight times.
I know, but this is not a losing road record. This is a hellacious road record.
Right.
7-23? Again, as you said, this is the Pistons technically have a worse record than the Warriors because they're 7-25.
Yep.
But this is the 4th worst road record in the entire NBA. The entire
Association.
NBA.
Thank you.
Now, I could blue sky this and tell you that also
You
means...
could blue sky it?
I could.
Hold on.
Hold on.
Where's the breaking news sounder?